Good afternoon, Facebook group. As always, hope you're doing well. It's a scorcher here in Greater Vancouver these days, and I hope, as always, my Facebook Lives finds you well in good spirits. Always here just to share my journey and just following up for one of my earlier journals. I wrote down, I had watched a video on the 7 points of acting on what we know. So there's 7 points. Number 1 is when you come from a complete point of ignorance. And as I'm sharing these with you, you may be able to realize where you're at in your network marketing business, in your direct sales business. And once you do, you'll really get a sense of how to progress from that, what to do, and move on to the next stage. So number 1 is ignorance, absolutely having and lacking knowledge. And when that's the case, what you need to do when you're absolutely ignorant and lacking knowledge is to understand what you do not know and need to know. Okay, so being ignorant on any subject, lacking knowledge, is to start understanding what you do not know and what you need to know. Number 2 is that you know, but you really do not believe it. You know, but you really do not believe it. So your head is in it, but not your heart. And often with our company, we speak about touching, the walls of our headquarters down in Provo, Utah. A lot of people are successful, but you really don't get the sense of our company until you reach an event. You come down for a Team Elite University, you come down to a convention where you're touching the Innovation Center, you're speaking to the scientists, you're walking through our quarters and head office right up to the 9th floor where our original founders' offices are. We talk about this business going from your head down to your heart when you really reach and touch, the headquarters of the company. Number 3 is like number 2, but you really don't believe it. But number 3 is you believe, but you don't do. And that's a real challenge, that you know what's going on, you're excited, you believe in what you're hearing from your sponsor, from your team, but you ain't doing anything. And I really don't know what to say to people at that point. I mean, that you need to leave that up to someone if they're just not going to get into action. Other than staying in touch with them, there's not much more you can do, because we're not pulling into this business because if you force someone to get in, you'll be forcing he'll be forcing his way out of this business as quickly as he was shoved into the business. So point number 4, you believe, but you cannot or you can't. And what they mean by that is you need to develop the skills, the courses, read the books, listen to the early morning development leadership calls. Again, you know what's going on, you believe, but you can't. How do I do this? That's when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that's when that personal development kicks in and you start to develop the skills. You start reading the books. You start attending events in your local market. You start listening to leadership calls, so that when you say you can't, that can't becomes you can. You start to understand. And on the premise of you knowing and believing, you now can start doing. The 5th point of 7 is you know and you do it inconsistently. So you believe, you start to work on yourself and you start doing it inconsistently. Now, inconsistently obviously is better than doing it not at all. But what you're going to get from doing anything inconsistently is producing inconsistent results. Like the gym, in your relationships, in your marriage, and your love and connection with your children, and especially in this business. If you do it inconsistently, you're going to certainly get inconsistent results. Point number 6 on how to act on where you are at is and you start doing it consistently. So this is where it really becomes a daily discipline and a regular routine. And finally, number 7, which is the highest level, is doing the right things becomes second nature, becomes a habit. And as you know, good habits are difficult to create, but bad habits are certainly much easier to create. But once, and this is the key as you reach level 7, as you create a good habit, you can almost go on autopilot and benefit from the discipline it took you to create that habit. You can almost go on autopilot and benefit from the discipline and time you have invested in creating that habit because it has become second nature. So I thought that was really powerful, this Facebook Live on acting on what we know, right from being ignorant on a subject to making your way all the way up to the highest level, doing the right things consistently, but key being the right activity, consistently becoming second nature, becoming a habit. As good habits are certainly harder to create, but once you do, it almost becomes and puts you on autopilot because you benefit from the consistency and the discipline that it took you to get to creating those habits. And as a result, you will see your business start to take on a whole new dimension of consistency and success. So hope you got some value from that. Feel free to comment below on acting on what we know. That once you know where you are in those 7 stages, you can learn to take the appropriate steps to then push you to the next level. Hope you got value. Share, comment. We'll chat soon. Bye-bye.